to the Mango Effect podcast, where every week we explore a range of ideas and inspiration that all culminate in designing the lifestyle that we've always dreamed of. No topics are off limits. We get into the practical, the hypothetical, and the downright juicy stuff. I'm Mindy Rosser, your host and lifestyle cheerleader, and I'm here today to talk about the either or question, or can it be both and? Okay, so many of us have heard when someone gives us a choice, they say either this or that. You have to choose either one thing or the other. And I usually default to, can it actually be both and? Like, that's the first reaction that I tend to have. I feel like so many of us see things in like these black and white scenarios when there are actually so many beautiful shades of gray, and there's so much in between. And a lot of times we just shut ourselves down because we feel like it has to be one way or the other. We can't have both. We are told things like, you cannot have it all, or you can have this but not that. And I think if we actually start to look at our life and when we're making choices from a different angle, and we actually, even if we end up choosing either this or that, but we actually ask the both and, can I have both and, what would that actually look like? And this has been a revolutionary question for me throughout my life in various areas, because I'm always pushing the boundaries. I'm always asking, okay, but can I have both? Like, what does that look like if I want to have both? So a little story on that. When I was a kid, I used to go to the ice cream shop. I love the ice cream shop. Baskin-Robbins 31. And it was right around the corner from our house. If I was really, really good, then I would get to go and I would get one scoop of ice cream. And each week that I got that one scoop of ice cream, it was this very painful process where I would look at all the flavors. I don't know if it's actually 31 flavors. There might be more. But I would look at all the flavors and think, but I want chocolate chip, and I also want the peanut butter cup. And for so many weeks, I would just like pick one or the other. And then it occurred to me, you know what? Even if I can only have one scoop, I could probably have half a scoop of one and half a scoop of the other. And so I actually asked the question, can I actually have a half a scoop of that chocolate chip cookie dough? Oh, I can taste it right now. And a half a scoop of the peanut butter cup. And funny enough, the nice person behind the counter said yes. And she smiled. And so it actually was like this moment where I thought, you know, sometimes just asking if we can have both and, sometimes we can get it. And what would that look like when applied to all of these other areas of my life? So it's kind of been this experiment that I run in so many different areas. So for example, in business, a lot of times we are told that we have to go like all in on a strategy, all in on a social channel, all in on fill in the blank here, all in on this type of program and offering. Or we are told that we have to niche down, like we have to eliminate all of these different customers that we actually want to serve. Or we have to kind of do this or that, like I'm either going to do group programs or I'm going to do one-to-one coaching clients. I can't really have both. And I don't like that approach because I feel like we can actually serve people in a multitude of ways. And if we actually thought, I wonder how all of these services could actually fit together so I could have both and. For example, in my business, I do work a lot with one-to-one clients. And for a few years, I was like on this mission to get rid of all of them. I'm like, I'm getting rid of all of them. I only want to do group programs. And then when I actually started going that direction, I noticed I actually kind of missed those one-to-one interactions. There was something very financially satisfying knowing that I have this retainer income on a monthly basis, but also I really do enjoy those one-to-one conversations. I do like helping people, kind of that hand-holding process over a long period of time and helping them get the results that they desire that I know I can get for them. And so there's something very, very satisfying about that. I also get a lot of satisfaction out of the group programs and really collaborating with people in that way. I feel energized after those group coaching calls. So for me, it's like, I wonder if I could have both and in my business and not feel like I have to do one or the other. So instead of trying to fight that and really try to go all in, like I have been told by a lot of business experts and gurus, I actually embrace the duality of my business right now. And that may shift in time. But right now, both and feels really, really good. Another thing that a lot of us as entrepreneurs or people that are trying to have a side hustle and we have more than one passion when it comes to our career and our profession is that we feel like we cannot have that career profession that we like, that we love, that is actually generating the results that we want without working a lot of hours per week, without having that time freedom. And we feel like we have to choose one or the other. We either have to work really, really, really hard, or we have to highly leverage and hire all these people and outsource everything and then kind of hope that it works. And I feel like there's this really beautiful space in between where we can really, I think, exist and work and make results and generate the revenue that we want without having to go so heavy and hard on one strategy or the other. Are we trying to create a 4-hour business like Tim Ferriss talks about, or do we want a business that we actually can participate in on a daily basis that is fun, that lights us up, that gives us purpose? And there is no right or wrong here. So if you're kind of thinking in terms of your business or what passions or projects, or maybe you just want to do a side hustle, what that can look like, it can be any shade of gray. It can be anything that you want it to be. And you can have a very, very great career. You can have a fantastic 9-to-5 job and also have this side hustle or do coaching and consulting on the side if you want to. So how can that look for you? Instead of thinking you have to do one or the other and that one of the areas is going to suffer as a result, they can actually work so beautifully together. All right, so kind of switching gears a little bit towards relationships. And this is kind of a very personal topic for me. If you listened to some of my other episodes, you might have heard me talk about this. But when it comes to relationships and being in a relationship that fits your orientation or fits your identity or dealing with labels, it can be really, really tricky. There are some of us, like myself, who fall into the category of, I would call myself a little bit more on the fluid end of the spectrum when it comes to gender and also when it comes to sexuality. So right now, if you asked me, okay, what is your orientation? I would tell you definitely I'm lesbian, sapphic, whichever word you like to use. I like both of those words. And I am, happy being a female, but sometimes that kind of skews a little bit towards the masculine and the non-binary. And I'm also still married to a man and very happily married to that man. So that usually throws people for a loop if I actually talk about this. And I don't talk about it with most people because they just don't understand and they just look at me like I'm weird. And they're like, well, Mindy, if you actually like women and are attracted to women, why are you not in a relationship with them? And I will get a lot of flack from the gay and lesbian community saying you should leave your husband. You're not in alignment. You're not living authentically. And then I will also get a lot of flack from the straight crowd that tells me, you're being damaging, you're hurting him because you're not really feeling sexually attracted to him or that gender. And you know what? All of them are wrong. Because the truth is that I feel like I'm the most authentic version of myself that I have ever been. And the fact that I can actually talk about these things with my husband, with my partner, the man that I really, really love. And yes, he happens to be a man, but I'm in love with the human. And I think that is it's been an incredible journey. It has been very hard. I will not say that it's easy coming out and telling your partner that you are a lesbian and not physically attracted to them or sexually attracted to them can be very, very challenging. But there's a lot of beauty that can come from that. There are a lot of other aspects of the relationship that we explored. It has just been like this eye-opening realization that, you know what? Screw the labels. I don't need a label. We don't have to label our relationship. He has mentioned at times that he doesn't really feel like he's completely a man either. He feels a little bit more fluid on the gender end of the spectrum. So what is our relationship? So for so many months and for a few years, I just kept struggling okay, I don't know what type of relationship we're in. Is it a mixed orientation marriage? Or what if he's actually, more feminine? So maybe we are in a lesbian relationship. I don't really quite know. So it can be very, very confusing. But just realize that in relationships, a lot of times it can be both ands. You can experience that duality in a way that is really, really beautiful and in a way that colors your relationships and helps you see relationships and people through a different lens. But it does take some discovery. It does take a lot of introspection. It took a lot of therapy on both our parts, a lot of hard talks. But I can say for now, and in this present moment, that it is a beautiful relationship that I feel very happy to be in, regardless of our orientations and all of that good stuff. So relationships, it doesn't have to be either or, it can be both and. Then when it comes to family, this is something I get asked a lot just because I would consider myself a very intense, hard-charging entrepreneur. I'm a workaholic by nature, so I always want to be working, and it is hard for me to slow down. But I also have 2 kiddos at home. I have one who is grown and out of the house, so 3 children. And so how can you get to be a successful business owner with a 6-figure business and also be a great mom. And I think it is not an either or question. It's like your kids are there with you. And since I get to work from home and the kids are literally right now, they are sitting in the room right across from me and they are being quiet. They're being good because they know mommy is working on a project. She's working on her podcast. And so bringing them into the business in some really fun and interesting ways, letting them be a part of the marketing, letting them hop into video calls and just kind of experience what it's like to be an entrepreneur. It's like the two can coexist in a really beautiful way. And I think it's not either or. It's not like I'm ignoring my kids when I'm working. A lot of times there is a little bit of crossover. They're kind of coming in, seeing what mommy's doing. When they know mommy is hopping on a call or she's going to do a podcast or she's going live, then they kind of make their exit. And sometimes they still come in. But I think the beauty of it is you can do both. And I think it really comes down to stacking. So what I like to call stacking, like what can you stack? What can you blend together? For example, when we go surfing is like a very good example of just how this all kind of comes together in a way where you are doing a lot of things and kind of checking a lot of boxes is what I would say. All at the same time. So it's not an either or. It's like, it's a both and. For example, when we go surfing, if the kids are with us, then, it's like he goes out, husband goes out, he surfs for an hour. I get to spend all of that quality time with the kids on the beach. That's really when I have those deeper conversations with my 8-year-old. She is wicked smart and she asks really fantastic questions. And I feel like that is really our special time. And 6-year-old boy, almost 6, as of this recording, he's kind of running around, kind of just being crazy, wild little boy that he is. But that time is like, okay, cool, I'm getting family time. I'm also, during that same slot, I'm getting wave watching time. As a surfer, you have to watch waves, you have to watch a lot of waves, and you got to watch the waves that you surf if you want to surf them well, especially if you're kind of in the newbie category like me. I've only been surfing, I think, going on 3 years here, so it is not very long, and I did not grow up an ocean person. So for me, wave watching is critical to becoming a better surfer. I'm also getting meditation. Watching waves and just kind of like being present, not having all of the electronics unless I'm making a TikTok or an Instagram video while I'm there, which I do because that's also stacking. So kind of weaving that in. But during the moments when I'm not doing that, it is really meditative. I am like listening to the ocean. I am being in nature. I'm getting sunshine on my skin. I'm getting that vitamin D. I am really present in that very moment. And then when it's my turn to go surf, I'm paddling out, getting exercise, I'm warming up on the beach, I'm getting that grounding and earthing because my body is touching the sand, so that electrical current is just recharging. Then hopping in the ocean, the same thing. It is like, if you have never spent a lot of time in the ocean, there's something about the salt water that is just incredibly energizing, healing, and rejuvenating. So just being in the water and paddling out. And then when I'm out in the ocean is more meditation because you are waiting for waves, especially if it's crowded, there's a lot of people. If it's a little bit slow, the waves aren't coming in very quickly. You're watching. You're being patient. There's also strategy involved. So as you're sitting out there, you're looking to check up the lineup and just see where are people positioned, who are the really good surfers, who are the ones that are not so good that you want to avoid because they may crash into you and they don't know what they're doing. Where are the waves breaking? Where should you position yourself? Do you want the waves? Are you trying to take off at the peak, behind the peak? Are you kind of trying to wait for it to come in a little bit so you have an easier takeoff? All of these different things that happen as I would say the result of surfing. And so there's so many boxes that are checked. I get to spend time with my husband too. There's kind of a little bit of banter. We're always kind of competing with each other, that we don't say it. We are competing with each other when we're surfing, like we're each trying to be better. And so there's this really beautiful sense of both and, not either or. Like, are we going to go spend time with the kids or are we going to go surfing? It's no. We kind of blend it all together and it becomes an experience. So think about different things in your life where you can kind of blend things, where you can stack. Because when you can stack different things that are good for you, that are healthy, that make you happy, that allow you to cultivate relationships, you're going to be a happier human. And it's really neat when you find some recipes that work for you. Another thing that comes up is wellness. Okay, so if you are not familiar with like surfing culture, most surfers, like if you look at them, they are kind of built more streamlined, I would say, like very like lean, kind of lean and ripped. And my husband and I, we're kind of more on the jacked side. So we are very muscular. We're kind of beefier. Like, we joke that Jason, my husband, is like a refrigerator. Just the way that he's built. He's just like this big slab of muscle. And I'm also kind of muscular. It's very hard for me to find wetsuits that actually fit because of my like very broad back and shoulders. And so there was this time where I was like, I think I actually have to give up being jacked to be a good surfer. And I did a lot of research. I'm like, you know what? Screw what everyone is saying online that like I've got to lose muscle, I've got to become, more skinny, and I can still be jacked and be a surfer. All I need to do is kind of work on my mobility and work on really strengthening my joints and becoming more flexible in different ranges of motion. So I kind of created my own little process that works really, really well so I can still be jacked and still be a decent surfer, still learning to surf. I wouldn't say I'm great, but I can have both. And that has felt so, so good. Another thing we haven't talked about as much on the podcast yet is really when it comes to money and investing. A lot of us think, okay, we hear the typical advice. We feel like, we got to save. We need to also invest. We've got to make sure we have an emergency fund. We have to also, we definitely need loans for different things in our life that come up. And so there's so much that people feel like they can either save or invest, or they feel like I can either spend or save. Like there's this either or, and maybe I should pay off my car or should I get a loan? I don't know. What's the best choice here? And something, if you've never explored it, something that is amazing to explore, it does take some understanding, but that what we use personally is the infinite banking concept. So you can read the book by Nelson Nash. Okay, so if you want all of it, we're talking about stacking. We're talking about both ands, not either ors. This is the most fantastic strategy that is super, super simple to follow. And basically what you're thinking, the gist of the idea is that you are becoming your own banker. So while you are saving money, like you are putting aside a certain amount every single year into your, what I call my bank, my IBC fund, that money is being invested. So the money I'm putting there is getting invested in very safe investments that are guaranteed. And then also I can actually take loans from that money. So once it is past a certain point, after like the first year or two, I can actually take loans from that and pay off my car. I can, loan myself money for my business. I can loan myself money for a house. And basically that money grows and you get to become your own banker. So for us, like the plan that we set up, it was like, okay, 4 years of contributing a very nice chunk of change every year. And boom, we have like this bank that we can go to anytime we want to buy a car, when we need our down payment on a house, and it is there for us. So it is really empowering because we're doing saving, we're doing investing, we're getting loans, all from the same source, and that source is us and our life insurance policy. So really neat way to look at investing, and it's super simple. Like I have a lot of friends and they're like, oh, we're going to do this real estate deal over here, or, what about this venture, or should I learn about cryptocurrency or NFTs? And I said, we're really boring. We just do IBC and invest in life insurance. And for now, that is working for us. I think at some point, we'll probably get a little more complex. But if you're looking for simple and something that kind of checks all the boxes, check out IBC. It's really, really interesting and has really helped me, I think, feel financially grounded and also have that security that I have this money sitting there that I can use anytime I need to take a loan, and I don't have to ask anyone's permission or have them check my credit to do it. All right, so we talked about a lot of different things. One other example that I'm going to bring up is also about location. So I have talked with a lot of people, and many of them, especially I think during the pandemic, we started thinking in terms of if I could live anywhere else, like if I'm going to get locked down in a certain location, where do I actually want to be? I don't actually want to be here. I'm used to traveling. I'm used to, I want to live where I want to be most of the time. And that is a question that a lot of people have been asking themselves. And they ask me, well, Mindy, how did you actually move to Hawaii? Like, how did this happen? And there was this time where I sat down with Jason and we were talking about, okay, do we actually want to live in Hawaii or do we want to have financial freedom? Like if we stay here, like we originally came from Indiana about 3 years ago, do we want to stay in Indiana? Because if we do, we can rack up cash really fast. Our payment on our house isn't that expensive. We can do all this real estate investing. That was pre-IBC. And we had all of these plans. But then we said, you know what? Is that actually going to serve our lifestyle? Like, is that actually the lifestyle that we want? You know, do we want to do that? Like, can it be both and, not just either or? Do we have to stay in Indiana if we want financial freedom? What if we could live in Hawaii and be financially free? What if living in Hawaii actually accelerated my business because more people wanted to work with me just because of where I lived, which is so ironic. But it happens. It's like people want to work with me because they're like, oh, wow, you live in Hawaii, so you must be awesome. Or you have these dreadlocks and you look like you live this exotic lifestyle, which it's really not that exotic, to be honest. It's the same thing every day, but we live in a really cool place. So I think in terms of your location, where you want to be, what type of lifestyle do you want to have, a lot of times you don't have to sacrifice financial freedom to be where you want to be. Why not have both? Like, how can they work together to really accelerate your goals? So this has been kind of a conversation where we are just really thinking about either ors. How many times have you asked yourself either or questions? And why not try the both and question? Never ever let people tell you it must be one way or the other. You can actually make your own rules. And yes, that does mean you have to get creative. You have to think outside the box. But that's what we're all about here at the Mango Effect. We're all about creating our own lifestyles by design. I notice that when I start to feel caged or boxed in, my creativity and my humanity kind of feels threatened. So for me, it's really been about training myself to ask that both and question. And sometimes I still end up choosing that either or answer. And I'm like, I don't really need both and. I think I should just, do an either or thing. And that's okay. But it opens up new ways of looking at situations and new possibilities. So you need to open yourself up to that. And I challenge you, like, if there's an either or question that you're really sitting there thinking hard about, can it be both and? Just think about that for a little bit. And if it can, is that the direction that you want to go? What other new possibilities are opening up? So I would love to hear your take on this topic because it is something that is super fun to get into. There's always pros and cons. I know some are like, Minnie, it's not always both and. You can't always have your cake and eat it too. I get that. But in a lot of circumstances, you can. You just got to open your mind just a little bit. So DM me on Instagram to share your take on the either or scenario or both and. And I'm also on TikTok now. So just look up at Mango Effect Podcast and we can have chats there as well. Let's encourage and inspire each other. So if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the Mango Effect Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. I'd absolutely love it if you could write a 5-star review for the show. We are a new show, so any reviews and subscribes we get will definitely help us as we grow. All right, I will talk to you very soon. Have a beautiful rest of your day.